Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. The Film Board gathers. The gang of thugs is here to take on a movie currently in theaters, and this month, it's George Miller's inevitable dance toward amputation by absurd tire. Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga.
Whatever you have to do. However long it takes. Promise me you'll find your way home. Furiosa. Give me this promise.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
I'm Furiosa!
The darkest of angels. The question is, do you have it in you to make it epic?
Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited to talk about this movie. I feel like I've been looking forward to it for a very, very long time. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm joined on the board with Steve Sarmento, once future king.
Good evening, everybody.
And Tommy Metz III. Hello, handsome.
Hi, it's me, friends.
And, it's been way too long. Ocean.
Too long.
Hello, everybody. Yes, it is exciting for me to be back on the film board.
Yes, and we are talking about what a better movie. I get that. Think of a better movie to talk about than Furiosa. This, of course, Furiosa comes as a prequel. Is it adjacent? It's kind of it's a prequel. It's in fact, I guess you could say it's a direct prequel. I mean, literally, Furiosa ends right as Fury Road picks up. George Miller is back in the desert and throwing cars at each other, and I just love it. This time is, of course, the story of young Furiosa as she leaves the place of all the mothers and is taken into the lion's den with crazy Roman Latin named anti-heroes. And here we are with this movie. Let's start with what you brought in, what baggage you brought into the movie. Ocean, why don't you kick us off? What'd you think?
Well, I guess my baggage in this movie. So in preparation for this, I recently watched Fury Road again. And I honestly had forgotten how great it was. And so I really enjoyed it. It was amazing. And then but in watching it, I also thought, well, isn't this movie really Furiosa featuring Mad Max? And so it made me feel that this movie, Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, was completely unnecessary. And after watching it, my opinion hasn't changed.
Wow. Okay. I look forward to, one, everybody else disagreeing with you, and two, you're giving it 5 stars anyway. Tommy, What do you think?
You may be half right.
I did see the movie. I honestly do completely disagree with Ocean. I rewatched Fury Road. I loved the practicality of the stunts, the driving in Fury Road, and was crazily reminded how repetitive and insanely small the story was. They go from A to B and then spend the second half going B to A. There's a little bit of that in this movie, but this movie got me so excited about really diving into the mythic, actual world building that is the wasteland. I thought it was, and I have a guess of why Ocean maybe also partly doesn't like this is the same reason he doesn't like the film Joker. He doesn't like backstories for big villains or big heroes sometimes. This was, I felt, so useful and needed and exciting to see where Furiosa come from. It used the word, when a film uses the word saga, you gotta have some courage to use the word saga. This was a saga, and it was Shakespearean. It definitely, for me, it took too much time. It overvalued its time. What's that phrase? What do we say about movies that go too long? It was too long. How about that phrase?
Yeah,
it was a little bit too long, but I loved it. And this is a genre that I do not necessarily love, but this is a world that I didn't know how much more I wanted to get into. I loved it and was so surprised how much I loved it.
Oh, outstanding. All right, Steve.
I watched Fury Road a couple days ago, and it had been several. I watched the black and chrome version, and really enjoyed that. And then thought, okay, what is he going to do with Furiosa? And because one of the strengths of Fury Road is it's just that road trip movie. It's like I just recently watched Sorcerer and The Wages of Fear, of let's just have a movie that's about people on a truck getting to a place, right? And that's what Fury Road was. And I thought, what's George Miller going to do with Furiosa? And he brought in all his other strengths of storytelling. He brought in what he does well in Fury Road with those pieces on the trucks, the road war. But he also brought in the character pieces of storytelling that he does so well in other films. And I thought this was the perfect marriage of that, because with a Mad Max movie, you just get, Max in sort of an episodic incident he stumbles into and moves on. But here we had the continuing story. The first time we've got another story around the same set of characters in the wasteland. So we got to see some familiar faces, we got some new characters, and we got into depth in Furiosa. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought it was a great story to tell to get us to the place where we were in Fury Road.
Right, right. Yeah, I had that same experience. I felt like the reveal of the Gastown, Bullet Town, and the Citadel, leadership. I think the movie has an interesting bit of sleight of hand that it is so promoted as a Hemsworth kind of vehicle that he ends up being kind of an idiot.
He
and I was
disappears also.
Yeah, I was
He's
so
an idiot and
relieved.
disappears.
Yeah, right. He's an idiot, and he comes back an even bigger idiot. And when the fact that we get, I was so relieved when we got the Immortan Joe reveal. I was like, thank God. Oh my God, the story is completing itself. Like, I understand where we fit in the world and in time. Like, I understand where we are in
I
time.
I was afraid he was going to be Immortan Joe.
Immortan Joe, me too.
Yeah.
I was really afraid of that.
Oh, you did feel that
Yeah.
way. Oh, that makes
Yeah.
me feel good because I was afraid I was a dummy because I hadn't watched anything leading up to it. But I was like, where are we in time? Oh, great.
Yes. Yeah,
Good.
that I thought could have been. I mean, it's just like setting it up for an own goal, like to make Hemsworth somehow more important than he was. That was a perfect bit of sort of marketing and storytelling that we get him in, have a big show of him being Dementus, and then leaving. So there was a lot. And speaking of Furiosa, I mean, I feel like her, knowing there are certain big moments that we get the her losing her arm, which is extraordinary and grotesque, and
I was the whole time I was like, wait, we're gonna see her arm go away, right? And then when it happened, I was so still taken aback.
Yes.
And surprised, and like while I was recoiling, I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And it was so smart story-wise. It's taken by tires. It's taken by the road.
Well,
instead
and
of
gravity,
something else.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that. So, I want to get back to the story of the difference, because this does feel to me like a very different movie than Fury Road. And I went in expecting something more operatic like Fury Road. And what I got was something more episodic, I think. That's the
By
word.
definition, with chapter breaks.
Yes.
When was the
right,
last time that
exactly.
you saw a summer blockbuster having chapter breaks
Chapter
that
breaks.
wasn't developed or wasn't written by Quentin Tarantino?
So
The only other person using chapter breaks.
yeah, right. And so what is how did that hit you? Was it functionally appropriate?
So for me, yes, the chapter breaks were functionally appropriate. They let you know kind of where you were in time of the story of Furiosa's youth, and then they're in a sense trying to say that here's when she first started Happy in the Green Place, and then the lessons of the road, and just kind of, and it really gives you demarcations of what is happening in her life. I think that the main thing that the chapter breaks aided for me was understanding, okay, we're now jumping forward in time. Because other than that, the movie does seem to just go at pace of, today to tomorrow to the next day to the next day. And then when they want to jump forward a few years and jump forward, the chapter breaks really help out with that. So that piece of it and everything is from a storytelling device and perspective, I did enjoy, and I did like that. And I thought it was a smart way to break up the story of what we were seeing. But my overall impressions of what those chapters meant and what they told me, that part was where I felt it fell flat for me, because I felt that I was not being provided any new information.
By the chapter breaks, you mean?
Yes, no. Well, by the chapter breaks, by the story as a whole, I felt that for me that a lot of the areas of where I was hoping and wanting to feel like I had more tension or that there were more stakes. I felt that they weren't there. Because the time frame is so soon. Like, for example, I was also going back. I thought that they were going to turn Chris Hemsworth's character into a Immortan Joe, and was happy that they didn't. But then once I saw a Immortan Joe there, I recognized that, okay, well, this universe is already set in place. So these events are not going to change the grand sweep of things, because I know a Morton Joe is going to still be there in when they first introduced him, Furiosa's 5. So I know a Morton Joe is still going to be there 20 years later. The universe is set.
But I got to ask this question,
Yes.
though, Ocean, because I think this is a really, I think it's important for how you watch this movie and how you watch movies. Just because you know inevitably how we're going to get to a point, is there zero interest from you in seeing how it's done?
Very interesting question.
I don't want to say that there's yes, I don't want to say that there's zero interest into me in how it's done. There are times that I do find it interesting in that way, but the method of this movie and the device of these Mad Max movies is they are chase movies and movies of where I'm supposed to feel that the characters are in peril, and that part of the emotion that you're pulling upon me is the what's going to happen next. How, are they going to make it? Are they going to solve this? Are they going to figure out this problem? And that's the driving force of how this prequel is working. And
you're saying the stakes involved.
Yes, the stakes. Yes, most of the scenes are driving towards some type of either peril or something that we're going to have, that we want to know what's going to happen next. How are they going to get out of this problem? How are they going to, how are they going to resolve this issue? But the thing that I had for me was, because I already knew how they were going to resolve it, I was able to enjoy it for what it was. But it then did not pull on any heartstrings for me.
Okay, but this is just like, I don't mean to throw Star Wars in your face, but can't you say every single thing you just said about Rogue One, one of your famously favorite movies in the Star Wars canon?
No, because the only thing you can say for sure about the end of Rogue One is that they get the plans out. Everything else is being introduced with new characters. I mean, obviously Darth Vader's not going to die, but other than that, you don't know anything about what's going to happen with any of them. So the fact that in Rogue One that they all die, you don't know that they're all going to die. You know that the plans are going to get out, and that's it. Right. So you know that. But in this movie, with the characters, I knew where everyone was going to end up, except for Dr. Dementis. I didn't know what was going to happen with Chris Hemsworth's character.
Okay. Tommy? Rebuttal?
I would like to say that I completely understand what Ocean is saying, and knowing that Furiosa, this character that we see put through the ringer and spend an incredibly long time as the most adorable small child in the world. We see her go through all of this, that George Miller is putting that the stakes are emotional, not whether they live or die, that's the real stakes involved. He denies us the big, huge battle at the end. He denies us a lot of stuff. This film is deeply weird and subversive, transgressive, however you want to say it, of how these films should go, or should normally go, or have normally gone. He denies us the big 40-year war. He denies us the big showdown between the female protagonist and the male antagonist. Instead, it's almost like a battle for souls, or the possible idea for happiness. And so the stakes are different than life or death. The stakes are about, this is a wasteland, and where can you then exist in a wasteland? You have people that live in caves called the maggot farms. They literally make food for other people. I've played the video game. Have any of you guys played Mad Max video game? George Miller had a huge influence in it. It's breathtaking. I've been to the Bullet Farm. I've been to Gastown.
Okay.
Like, it's pretty cool. Like, I've driven around those things. But what I'm saying is that he's going for something taller and stronger and weirder and more difficult. Of what do we really want for stakes? And the stakes are maybe your soul. I mean, the big shootout isn't a shootout. The big shootout at the very end of the movie, spoiler alerts, I assume we've done that, is the big villain saying to the main protagonist, we're the same, because we're already dead. The shots have already been fired. We're already dead because we're in the wasteland. And so where do you go from here? Which is what I find fascinating. So, Ocean, with all due respect, I definitely agree with the weirdness of knowing that the stakes are different, but I'm appreciating that the stakes are different, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, I do agree with it was great hearing with the speech at the end with Hemsworth saying that we're both the same. I did find though that did you agree that he was correct? Because I found that I didn't think he was correct, because I really do believe that Hemsworth's character, Dr. Dementis, was very much like, I'm already dead. I don't care about whatever happens to anybody, anything. I'm just here kind of doing and, and trying to take control where I can. And Furiosa still seemed to have some emotional groundedness and still cared something of other people, not of every other person, but like something like I didn't know that I agree. So I'm just curious, like with that, did you agree that he was correct?
No, that's what makes her the ultimate hero of this incredibly impossible situation, is that she uses the one small thing that she has to save the future, to try to save the future, to save the, what do they call it, brides?
The brides or
Mothers.
wives?
Mhm.
Wives, the
Yeah,
weird
the wives.
Her
Yeah,
wives.
yeah, whatever Morton Joe's wives are, is all of this leads to her being like, no, it's not all just about personal. He talks about it's just personal sensation to destroy the blackness, and nothing can ever come back. She does make one enormous choice, weirdly, in the next film. In the film that became before this, she chooses above herself. She's with, to make a very gross analogy, she's planting a seed for the future by making his brides, his captured brides, escape. That's the new seed that she is planting, I guess.
Well, I mean, I agree with that. I think I think that's the thing we don't see is the part where she works for Immortan Joe as an imperator for some indeterminate amount of time. Like, this is an origin story for who is ostensibly a villain, right? Furiosa is a bad guy for the bad people, and the story of how
In
she
Fury
got there
Road, you mean?
in Fury Road, right? And
Yeah.
this is her trying to get out of that world in Fury Road.
Yeah.
And this story is her getting into it. And what is it that sets up those emotional stakes for her to be able to make those decisions? You have to make Hemsworth Dementis worse than Immortan Joe. You have to make Immortan Joe, this character who's been diabolical for years for us as fans of the series, and you have to make him sympathetic somehow, so that this young girl will find him, his offer, more attractive than, and that's an absurd bit of sleight of hand on the part of Miller to actually turn all of those tables around and make it interesting to me. I think. I don't know, Steve, you've been notably quiet for several minutes.
Well, I'm right there with Tommy on this. And I think the interesting piece is, yes, there is that hope that she has. We have that indeterminate amount of time that it takes for that tree to grow. But throughout that is that life. And I think that's the thing that sets her apart. But at that moment when she and Dementis have that confrontation, that showdown, she has lost, her mentor, Praetor Jack, who sort of her mentor taught her the ways of road war and all of that. So I think at that point, she could have easily gone to a much darker side, but she has the seed that is her hope. So I think in that moment, that's her moment of choice of how she will respond to having lost everything. She has no certainty that the Greenland is still there. Her family has been taken from her. Her mentor has been taken from her. So at that point, for me, she's in a similar place, and it's how she.
What is she asking?
She's got to see that she's
demanding. Give me my childhood back. Give me my mother back.
Right.
Impossible things. Yes.
Right. Impossible things. But what she's got is that seed, which something can come from. What does he have? He's got the stuffed animal. That's his memory. And there's nothing that can come from that. But she's got something that's a memory that holds some possible future. And so for me, that's the transition. For me, what is really compelling is knowing this journey she's gone on, now knowing in Fury Road, that whole movie is the quest to get to that return to childhood land, and to find out that it's not there now is really, for me, a very interesting point of where does Furiosa go? Because Fury Road was all about continuing that journey that is set up here of I can get back to the land of my childhood. And for her to realize that it's now truly gone at the end of Fury Road, there's a third story of what does that do to her? To be told. But I think this is really to make Furiosa the character that we're willing to go in this journey along, required this unusual structure of 5 parts where there are skips in time that we don't know how much they are, but it really gets to the emotional beats of this journey. It's not so much about the plot, it's what are the emotional stages that she's in through these different pieces of the story. And that's, I think, what carries us through this. If you're expecting Fury Road, you're expecting that you're going to get bits and pieces of it, but you're really getting these like soulful, critical life moments in Furiosa as she's developing into the person she becomes.
That's an outstanding point. Fury Road, until Tom Hardy is at some point knocked unconscious, is a film in real time. And this is very unconditionally like, I don't know, how long does it take a wig to grow on a tree? Like there are multiple times when I'm like, I don't know what has happened. There's multiple things that happen off camera, like Dementis Magoo taking over Bullet Town. That was legitimately confusing for me for a while. The decision for Demented Magoo to switch bikes.
Yes.
In one of the many.
You mean at the end
when they all go in different directions?
Unfortunate ADR things. George Miller is great. George Miller also is problematic for me. If we want to start being, I don't know, real bitches all our life, you can let me know when that time is. I still have
time
problems.
Is whenever you want it to be.
I
Let's
definitely
hear
have
your
problems with this movie. It gets very ADR heavy at times, and it's very noticeable, especially for a character like Furiosa who doesn't speak.
Yes.
And then
she's got 22 lines in the movie?
Yeah. When you don't see her face and she says, "Come with us," or "You and I are now pals." That's not an actual phrase, but it's like clearly the filmmaker didn't do enough to make it work. And then the only other thing is I was so happy that he didn't do the one thing that he loves doing that makes me insane, which is that weird sped up film. He actually doesn't speed up film. He cuts frames, apparently. Either way, it's so Benny Hill. I can't stand it. And it's very much a part of his auteur. It's his like Spike Lee dolly move. It's his thing. And I can't stand it. And it showed up in the last half quite a bit, which was really, really rough. But other than that, I mean, I forget how I started this sentence. So, Ocean?
Yes. Sir?
Nice toss. That was a nice toss.
Thank you. I thought that was really elegant.
Yes, that was great.
I really had a full line of thoughts, and I loved all of those points. But was there a point to them?
That's okay, Tom. You like the movie, you took little jumps in between. They didn't have to flow one into the next. We could do one thought.
Tommy's contribution, chapter 4, is where we are next. When he comes back around. Yeah.
4,
I need to gin up some title cards.
Tommy vomits words. Period. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's that's an important thing to say, and I think it gets to how this movie is so different from Furiosa, right, or from Fury Road, that it's not quite so operatic. It's there is much more, I would say, much more notable CG in this. I mean, recognizing that there was a lot of practical stuff going on in Fury Road, it was still a CG heavy cleanup kind of job to make that movie happen.
But a little disappointing in this film, and I was still okay with it because I feel like I'm so sorry that I just interrupted you, but the vision equaled it. Of like, this is not practical, this doesn't look great, but I love the idea behind it instead of, hey, look, we can do whatever we want whenever we see things. And he still had the amazing vision to, like, when was the last time you saw a huge action piece with explosions involving all these cars happen way zoomed out?
Right.
That was thrilling.
Right, yeah.
And it was kind of early in the film. And I was like, oh my God, to not need, you're going to have like all these flying things going in. You're going to have drones for days, but you just show this one pan, right to left pan of this enormous gunfight with explosions and fire. It's the first time that it's when they took the war machine for the first time.
Yes. Right.
That's, in these days, that's restraint. And that's thrilling restraint. That's Jack Wick restraint. Jack Wick.
Jack
No,
Wick,
you
his
guys
cousin,
don't know him.
and he was
You guys-
is
no,
Is that
yeah,
John
no,
Wick's
no.
cousin? Is that
Yeah.
what
It's
it
his
was like another
cousin.
movie? He's
It's
an
his
accountant
cousin.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that kind of restraint of like, oh, maybe we don't need to be all in there. Maybe sometimes just the beauty of the horribleness is the way to do it.
Well, and I think to that point, I mean, the production design of creating the war machine as something new in this universe was special, right? The fact that we get this giant silver beautiful thing and we get to see how it gets roughed up. We get to see how it gets dirty and bent and broken along this horrible environment of the road.
In
I
the
thought
Church of
that
the
was pretty
Holy
special.
Motors,
Yes.
all of these places exist in
Right.
this crazy, what do you call like what all of Star Wars and Star Trek has? Like
universe?
this
The universe?
universe. Yeah.
Universe. Yeah.
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 They all exist. Maggot farms exist. It's
Yeah.
pretty exciting.
Okay. Most of this was the same team from the last film. But speaking specifically to camera, I think the cinematographer was different from the last movie. It was Simon Dugan. Dugan was the cinematographer on this one, and did not do, but has done a lot of movies that we've talked about, movies that we like, and also movies that we don't like. Like, for example, he did Knowing and The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. He did, right. He's got a lot of
had that
credits.
great scene with the
Yes.
plane. All right.
Yeah, for
We
sure.
talked about that.
Hacksaw Ridge, Warcraft, The Great Gatsby. Like, Simon's
Oh.
worked with some incredible directors and
Well
has
done,
made
old
some
sport.
very, very big movies. We've all iRobot and Underworld Evolution. Those are also in the catalog. So, Live Free or Die Hard. There's a language we all speak. So I'm curious what you think of how well he's able to make Furiosa feel like a Mad Max movie.
This film, again, to repeat something that I said before, felt much less practical than Fury Road, which was disappointing, but yet his work to make the non-practical stuff seem exciting equaled out somehow.
I think that was, for me, that was it. I was most disappointed by just how CG heavy it was, only because they set my expectation otherwise with the last movie. That part of the spectacle was just how much they celebrate the practicality, recognizing, of course, there are as many stunt people or more doing real stunts and real effects. It just didn't quite look as of a piece as Fury Road did to me.
100%. And then, like, while I was in the theater feeling that, I was like, oh, that is how you would get a weird wasteland helicopter up into the world, like a kite of death.
Yeah.
So
So
it
good.
kind of, it kept equaling out to me. My dream would have been for a cinematographer or VFX crew to make it all feel like Fury Road. Like, I think the one reason that Fury Road was Oscar nominated and this won't be is because you can see the movie in the movie. And some of Fury Road, you couldn't see it. You're like, well, you can't do those things. That's impossible. And they did. This one, I always felt very possible, but very excited by the imagination from the filmmaker.
And I wonder how much of that is Fury Road being really, I mean, for lack of, really specific, I mean, it's a single location because you're on that
Right.
stretch of road. So, I mean, geographically, you're there. So you've got that continuity. But here, we're on that stretch of road. We're at Bullet Town. We're at Gas Town. We're out in the desert. We're out in the dunes. So we're in different locations. And so I felt like perhaps technically we've got so much more. We've got such a larger story to tell. We've got to be in so many different places, how we have to cover things technically, how much shooting time we have versus, well, we're on this stretch of road. We can shoot scenes throughout all over the script. Is it going to feel more of a piece versus we're at this location for 2-3 days. We've got to get as much as we can here. And then we'll fill in what we need to. So I don't know how much technically that's the piece, or if it is just actually physically because we're in different locations, although still in the wasteland, that, the war rig, when they're at Bullet Town and it's about circling around is different than on a straight stretch. So the way you would shoot that, because we have to also be cutting between, Jack and Furiosa and Dementis out near the big smokestack, trying to snipe at them and all of that. So I think visually your vocabulary for telling that type of interaction would be different versus we're on a truck that's getting attacked from both sides. I've got a certain vocabulary to tell that versus I'm in a different geographical space with parties in different parts that are moving in relation to each other, plus a big thing spinning around. So do I need to shoot that differently? So I felt comfortable. It did feel different, but for me, I always felt that I was in good hands, that I knew where I was, that I knew who the players were at each part. And, yes, it was thrilling when they were on the road with the war rig, because I'm like, yes, this is familiar territory. We're finally what I was looking forward to. But then we got different things. And I thought, yes, okay, let's change that. Let's, give me something I wasn't expecting, where we've got the war rig, which is actually two pieces and it's, coming around, and it's getting spun around and all of that. And we've got cool spinny things on the back of it. So I felt like there were certain things that got leveled up in this version of the story, whereas Fury Road was, okay, basic Mad Max, we're on the road, we're fighting. This one, I got just a little bit more to it. And so I attribute that to not delivering what I expected, but still giving me something that I found satisfying.
I desperately agree with everything that you just said. And that is something that we have to really remember is this is exponentially more ambitious than Fury Road was. And if you go back and watch The Road Warrior or Mad Max, those were movies that I think maybe I made. I'm not pooping on those movies. I'm just saying that those movies in scope were so tiny. And then we got the idea of the towns from Tina Turner in Beyond the Thunderdome. But I would love to hear what Ocean
Gastown is very much like, reminds me of Road Warrior, where they're sort of gated in and everything. I was like, oh, okay, so that was a small scale version of Gastown, because that's where they are. They've got the gasoline, they're loading in the truck. I was like, oh, it's the same thing, but amped up in scale times
No,
1,000.
it becomes
So
like a
that-
heist movie. It becomes like a crime movie.
Yes.
Which is
Right.
thrilling.
Yes.
Ocean, I want to hear so much more from you.
You mean when Dementus does the Trojan horse to get the gas to take over Gastown? No,
Oh, the
I
Trojan
did
horse.
find
That was
yeah the
pretty
Trojan
cool.
horse take over Gastown. Yeah, because when it was happening, I'm sitting there going like, so did you guys not watch Troy? Okay, so it was because it was like, hey, that's the Trojan
No,
horse.
they
Yeah,
literally
they
didn't.
didn't. I know they didn't. Yeah.
They
So,
maybe
yes,
watched
yeah.
rocks in a hand.
Yeah, no,
I don't know.
I definitely forgave. Yeah. So, and that's just me being snarky. I think that one of the things that I did enjoy a great deal about this movie was the expansion of geography, and to create the idea of, you do have an idea from Fury Road about the Citadel and Gastown, and then the Green Place, even though it's not the Green Place anymore, kind of a little bit of a scope of what that is directionally. But this one does add a lot more. It adds in Bullet Town to give you another place. It adds in really the different nomadic experience of Dr. Dementis's crew. Part of it is these. The expansion of scope of these large nomadic crews that are going back and forth in the wasteland, and it really made you appreciate that this wasteland is much larger than it felt in the other movies. Because in the other movies, you felt that most of civilization had been killed off, and everybody just lived in this smaller area. And this movie really exposes you to no, the world is still as big as it is. It is still potentially almost as populated as it is, somewhat similarly, but that there are these nomadic tribes that are going around and hunting or killing each other or stealing from each other to survive. And I did like the additions that this movie provided to really make the world that Mad Max, or at least the Mad Max universe now, feels much larger to me than it ever had before.
I love the universe that it creates, and also going along what Ocean just said. When was the last time that you had the big bad that you've been following go have a great idea to siege another place and get his ass kicked? Like that happened. That's really exciting to see in a major motion picture. When was the last time that happened? I don't mean like a big bad villain in Marvel and stuff. That's what they're built for. But he almost the weirdest, coolest thing about what's his name? My apologies.
Dementis.
Dementis. He almost seems like a better version than Immortan Joe. Because Immortan Joe is so gross. And we know him from the second film. He's so disgusting that you almost are like, and the first time that we meet Demento Magoo, he's in a white cloth. He is obviously gross, but he's like a father figure for a second.
Yeah, and he's
then there's a lot of weird imagery is involved with that, but then the idea that he goes in, you knew it wouldn't work because you know who Immortan Joe is, but I would like to ask you for instance, for interest, were you kind of rooting for him against Immortan Joe when they all rolled in with their cool plan before they got their absolute ass kicked? When Immortan Joe realized what a real army is, what a real cult is.
No, that was one of my moments of relief of the movie because when I saw the War Boys as they were coming up, and then I started thinking, oh, so did the War Boys predate Dementis and he took it over, then Immortan Joe and all that, and then when Immortan Joe comes out, I'm like, okay, good, the universe has been restored.
It did get confusing.
It got confused, yes, and
1,000% agree.
Yes,
and I'm so sorry to talk over you, Ocean. It's only because I'm so glad that you felt the same way that I did. I'm so bad at backstory and things like there were so many times in this movie and I was like, oh no. But then it did end up honoring it. But yeah, but I thought that was a really interesting part.
It was, but I interpreted his defeat differently. I think that
Whose defeat?
Dementis' defeat against Dementis' defeat with the Citadel. I interpreted that a little bit differently because first and foremost, good. This is a Morton Joe's place, and that's how it should be. But B, that it showed that Dementis to me had a little bit of a deep strategical thinking to himself, because after they just got destroyed, he goes, oh, okay, well, now it's time to basically adjust. I need to adapt and overcome and adjust. And then he creates effectively a plan to then take over Gastown. And while we don't see it on screen, eventually he takes over Bullet Town. And if not for really, I think Furiosa showing up at the end, his plan to eventually take over the Citadel potentially would have worked.
Yeah,
because the one son, Scrotus and then Rectus and Rectus or whatever. Yeah. So Scrotus wanted to do exactly what Dementis was planning ahead of time, to have them all go to Gastown, and Furiosa telling him what was that he had just taken over Bullet Town. Of course, is what he's wanted. Created gave Morton Joe the lane to say, okay, well, let's just fake it and then be ready when he gets here. But had they not done that, it would have adjusted, and so it would have worked. And so I think that, to me, it was a good moment, or a great moment of Dementis's character growth, that he took this absolute defeat and turned it really almost all the way around to where he could get to retake the Citadel, which apparently was his goal. Because having the Gastown and Bullet Town, I would think that would be enough. But apparently,
the Citadel was water.
The Citadel was water. I think that was the thing.
It's the food and water. Yeah.
But his taking of Gastown was potentially, you could say, his demolition, his own self, when he turns away from his own people saying, make it real. Gastown doesn't believe this is a real thing and starts shooting his other people. I think that's when I'm a little flummoxed from some of the history, is that the creation of that other tribe that we see so much in Fury Road. That is just this other faction.
The other faction
that has all the.
Which faction was that?
Which faction?
Who knows? I'm not going to know.
The biker guys. Oh. Yeah, I think it's the bikers. Yeah, the bikers that the Furiosa makes a deal with in Fury Road.
It's like that other person. It's that other faction that doesn't really exist in the story.
Well, I guess I didn't. To me, part of what Furiosa, in making the universe great, made it where I just accepted those bikers were just some of the group, analogous to the bikers that they had the 20 bikers that had to fight to then be the 5 that would rip the one guy in half. That was a whole other large group that Dementis just killed. So these bikers are just some other group, and I guess I don't also think that it was his end, because he still took over Bullet Town too. So the people were still with him.
But so terribly.
Right. But I think it's that's where, for me, he goes from being sort of a little bit of a comical character, because, when he tries to take over the Citadel, it's like you realize he's way in over his depth. He's trying something. He's like throwing spitballs at a tank, right? There's no way. And you realize, like, okay, he's all bluster. But then when he says, no, make it real, he turns a corner, like ethically, morally, where you realize he will do whatever it takes. All bets are off. He's got a goal. He'll throw anybody, to get to his goal. And that's where I feel like we make that transition from him in the pure white to then getting coated with red and then black at the end. We get that total
his
color progression of his soul.
So
yes, right. in his robes, we see that transformation as he becomes a darker and darker person, because he does have that sort of father figure when we first meet him, but by the time he's like, kill these guys because it's part of my plan, I feel like that's where, for me as a viewer, that character took a turn, because I thought, I was sort of rooting for him. Like, let's see what he can do with the Morton Joe, because the Morton Joe is, we know, this just creepy, just ew character. But I felt like Dementis at that point was like, there's still something redeemable about this guy. Maybe he'll get a small victory in this. But yeah, as soon as he sacrifices those guys and all bets are off, and that just continues. And then when they get to Gastown later and it's like they're starving, he's not taking care of his people because it's all about him. To me, that's what made him such a really compelling character throughout, that it's really his story just as much as Furiosa's, as they develop in parallel to that crisis moment where it's what path will they take moving forward of how Furiosa turns on him.
So excited about the parallel. Yes, it's really, this whole movie can be about, because he talks about his magnificent beauties. He talks about the horribleness that he's gone through from the wasteland. If you take him and her as parallel figures, you just said parallel figures in the wasteland, and throw them at the wasteland, how are they going to do? That's kind of what the movie seems to be about, and is fascinating.
I have 2 things, 2 points. These are just very, very brief. One, emotional reaction to seeing Mad Max just kind of hanging out.
Oh, there was a audible reaction in the crowd.
We're not saying that's Mad Max.
Yeah, that was Mad Max.
Yeah, up on the cliff overlooking. That was the total. It was the car. That was everything.
That's not his name.
That was him.
I don't think that's Mad Max.
Well, his
Mad Max?
His name is Max.
You mean Mad Max, not the guy that ended up picking her up?
No. We're talking about, there was a shot where we see Max's car up on the cliff, just sort of looking down, and there was just this rumbling.
Got it.
Yes, it was Max way up there as she was coming back from.
Well, she was walking
Gastown, I think, or something.
I guess.
Yeah. Oh no, she was walking. Yeah, she was walking back.
I was assuming that I might strike back about that idea, that he saw her alone in the desert walking to her
from a far distance. Yeah.
Why would we think that would be Mad Max versus the he called the driver protecting? That's
Praetorian Jack.
No,
because of the car. Because specifically, it's the car. I mean, that if you're a Mad Max fan, you recognize
Mad Max's car.
My apologies.
And it's the exact same shot.
That's the thing.
So you're saying that he
road.
just sees her and is like, "Good luck." Oh, that's actually fascinating.
I thought he saw them. Wasn't it like there was a scene? There was a battle going on when they showed him, right?
Oh no, I thought it was just her walking across the desert. It's just her.
Yeah, because I remember seeing him.
I thought that it was that weirdo that picks her up. Not weirdo, love interest. I don't know what he is. Picked her up. Oh, so that was just a one-off?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then,
that was
exciting. I guess I'm just maybe I'm not remembering the right context. It wasn't that after after she lost her arm and all that, it was then when you see Max. You don't see Max.
I believe it was because she was wandering in pain slowly across the desert.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That was the first one, and the second one was, I thought it was a really interesting choice. What could be construed as an unreliable narrator. We have a voiceover at the end. History man, right? History man, who's talking about the potential things that could have happened, and then it leads us to the tree of the.
I completely dismissed that as fantasy.
The tree?
Yeah, the tree thing. I just completely dismissed it as fantasy. I mean, maybe she truly did plant the tree, and then the part of the story of like kind of like how myths get over time. Like she planted the tree and she was motivated because of him, and that's all that. But the tree growing out of him, I just completely dismissed that as a fantasy tale.
But so then when she takes the peach from the tree and then takes it to the wives,
when does it come back
to me? Was the reality? To me, that's just true for how she resolved that. Of how does she destroy him in a way that's
destroy him with a tree growing up and he's alive.
You just watched Fury Road. Did it involve her, Furiosa, bringing a peach? Ocean?
No, it didn't. She had that seed that she planted. So I dismissed the idea of the tree growing out of him.
No, I'm saying
Yeah.
in Fury Road. No,
Yeah.
I'm saying in Fury Road is
No, the
are
only
we
seed
accepting that-
was there was the one woman that was the seed maker. When they finally got over to where the green place was, that woman that had all the seeds, but no, Furiosa herself did not have any seeds.
Yeah. Or a peach. No, I'm saying just a peach. We saw her break out the women.
Yeah.
It is
Right. No, not in Fury Road. We
No,
don't.
in Fury Road,
No, because they're already
in
loaded
the
in.
truck.
Yeah.
Look, I'm bad at talking now. I'm trying my best.
We're
and
doing great.
instead, I will infuse confidence with the amount of things I do with my voice.
Okay.
So you're saying that we never, until this movie, saw Furiosa putting those women into the truck?
Correct. In Fury Road, they're already there. So they don't show up till about 20, 30 minutes later when they're further down, and then they come out. But they're already in the
Right.
truck.
Yeah, they're in the truck. Their reveal is when Max gets knocked unconscious and then wakes up, and they're out in the desert, hosing each other off and drinking water and all that. And it's like this amazing vision of beauty out of the wasteland. So yeah, we had not seen
Isn't
it
that interesting?
prior to that.
We went into the bride prison later
Mhm.
once they were all
Right.
gone.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's
Yes, 'cause I
that's
think in Fury
fascinating.
Road,
That's
they go
really
back
cool.
and you see the ones that are left because she doesn't break out all of the brides.
Just
Just
five.
that group.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Why
you see
would
what's
you
left.
in this economy?
No, there are only 5 because when we see her in the end of Furiosa going with the peach, we see it's the 5 that she takes on to
Right. But
the truck. Now, earlier in Furiosa, when we see other brides, that is when Furiosa is much younger.
oh, right. That was before the recasting.
How
yeah.
much time? Because if that tree, how long does it take a tree to grow that long? So even from the last act of Furiosa, there's got to be a jump of probably at least 10 years. And so when young Furiosa first gets to Immortan Joe, she's like 10 years old. So even between that time and when she's driving the war rig with Praetor Jack, I mean, that's, maybe 7-8 years there. So we only see wives early on, which is a different set of wives because there's the one child that's born. And then we've got a big jump to the end of Furiosa where it's the brides that are the same ones. Well, at least, the characteristics there that we see from a distance, it's the same wives. We've got the one with the red hair. You've got the tall blonde one. You've got all of that.
But in the spirit of time passing, right, that tree was growing directly out of Hemsworth's manhood, and that could grow very, very fast. I'm just saying.
He is a very virile man. Yes,
this
I
movie
understand.
This is just a bit of trivia. This movie was written by co-written by George Miller and Nico Latouris. Now, Nico Latouris is a writer and actor, but in terms of his writing credits, he was in the first Mad Max movie. He played Grease Rat in 1979 in Mad Max, and then did nothing, as far as I can tell, with any of the Mad Max anything until he co-wrote with George Miller Fury Road, Furiosa, and is also on deck for the follow-up, the actual sequel to Fury Road, Mad Max: The Wasteland, which has no release date. But I was not...
And which probably won't have a release date. But that's insane that one person was through all of that. That's crazy.
There's quite a thread. So I think it's fascinating, and I'm really curious. Why do you say that you don't think it'll have a release date, The Wasteland? You don't think it'll get made as the third movie?
Worst Memorial Day. They're saying it's the worst Memorial Day box office in the last 20 years. It took about, I think, $168 million to make, which means with advertising 300. It's rough stuff. Hollywood, dumb Hollywood, would look at this and say, nope, no more. Smart Hollywood would say, hey, good films are good. Let's keep making them. and not spending so much on certain things that we don't need to spend on. But yeah, I'm worried. I'm worried that this is going to be his, not like insanely like this, but like his next Babe in the City, meaning it's gonna destroy the franchise.
The problem that I have with that is that you may be right, and I think I just wonder which is the right lesson to take from it, because I know there will be people on the side of this universe cannot withstand the weight of an entire movie dedicated to a female protagonist in Anya Taylor-Joy, and that
Oh,
I
I
think
didn't
is
say that, but go ahead.
no, I know, but this is what I mean. Like, I
Oh,
know
yeah.
that there will be that argument, and I think
Yeah.
that's definitely not the right lesson for dumb
Right.
Hollywood to take from this movie, right? But I'm not entirely sure what is, because maybe it's too soon to learn the lessons of this year's Memorial Day and why the movies are not a draw. Even Garfield is not succeeding in the box office. Wait, did I say that out loud?
Ugh, no, it makes it seem like Hollywood is broken currently.
Yeah.
Not Hollywood, theaters. are
Theaters.
broken.
Theaters, yeah.
Right.
I-
Right.
I do question, as far as the different lessons to take from this. The female lead, I see what you're saying, and I really do hope that is not the lesson that is taken, because that has nothing to do with what could potentially be in my view of, in my view, I don't think dumb Hollywood will think that it is what it is. I wonder how much of it will be about it being a prequel. And that whether or not they feel that they, in a universe such as this, if you look at the three before, Mad Max and the Road Warrior and Thunderdome, they all kept moving forward, and whether or not that they would hopefully judge this as, okay, well, the lack of interest was because people like to see the chronologically things going forward, and there wasn't a huge appetite for a prequel.
Yeah,
That's
I think that's
interesting. I mean, we're about to see with things like A Quiet Time, Alien Time,
A Quiet Place, Day
Quiet
One, yes.
Place, yeah.
Day One.
Yeah, they're also going to test the prequel thing.
I think also weren't we also talking about Star Wars prequels?
We talked about that in general conversation, but I don't know that there's not plans to make any more Star Wars movies that are prequels that I'm aware of. All
But
of
they're
the
in
prequel stuff
universe.
is in the universe. The television shows, yes, the television shows, but not a movie. The movies,
Right.
the movies' plans were to move forward. I think they're even going to try to get away from the Skywalker family and then just go.
What
just
was
keep
Rogue
going.
One?
Well, Rogue One was a
Do we
standalone.
call
Yes,
that
Rogue One was a
that
standalone.
a middle?
Yeah, the Rogue One was a
A
standalone
midquel.
from midquel. Yeah, so
Right.
chronologically, it is definitely, you consider it a prequel. However, it did not have the same characters. So even though early time, completely different people. Whereas this one is more of a direct prequel, because it is the same people, character wise, that you saw in Fury Road are being added into this. And so I think that at least my hope is that, if there, the lesson to make to this is say, hey, let's give George Miller a mulligan, because these Mad Max movies are awesome, and let him make the next one where the storyline goes forward, and see if the reason for the box office slump was just people didn't want to go out to see a prequel.
Got it.
Well, this is interesting. In a follow-up interview with George Miller, he says he and Nico Latouris have written effectively a novel so far of what happened to Max the year before Fury Road, and that's something we'll look into further down the road. It is likely then that is the source for The Wasteland, a prequel following Max during the year before the events of Fury Road. Whether Tom Hardy would return for that film, or if the character would be recast, is anyone's guess. So now we have Furiosa as a prequel to Fury Road, and this other Max film would be another immediate prequel to Fury Road. That, I guess, means that there is some universe in which these two, Furiosa and The Wasteland, are happening together. And that's why we see Max in Furiosa on the cliffside, that there is some sort of a contemporary tie-in across those two stories. So I guess, again, when you talk about the audience gods and the box office, this could mean this Mad Max play in Furiosa is an Easter egg. unless the movie gets made, and we'll see if it's legit.
I love the universe, and I don't like a lot of big universes. Meaning,
Yeah.
like, I don't care about Star Wars. I
Yeah.
don't care about Star Trek. And my apologies for that. I should. I love Aliens universe. Anything Wayland Yutani. I love certain universes, but I guess only if they're scary or terrifying. I don't know what that says about me, but yeah, the wastelands are fascinating to me, so I'll be there.
Me too. I think fundamentally, I really enjoyed this movie. I'm glad that it exists. I think Anya Taylor-Joy was fantastic. Do we have any just brief comments as we wrap up on any specific portrayals that you'd like to shout out?
Young girl, amazing.
Yes, that
What's her
was,
name? I'm so sorry.
Alila Brown.
She's outstanding. I thought that Big Eye Girl was fantastic. What's her name again?
Anya Taylor-Joy.
You need to cut out me being so bad at words.
Okay.
And I thought
You're giving me a lot to do then, is what you're saying.
my apologies. And I spent a lot of the time for the kind of other road warrior who I thought was fine, being like, why would they spend the time de-aging Stacy Keach? Didn't he look exactly like he has the lip and everything? I thought it was insane.
Everything. You're right.
I really desperately wanted him to be more charismatic. He's an enormous part of this movie. I felt like he was overshadowed by pretty much everyone else in this movie. I didn't get it. I was kind of, the whole time I felt like, oh, he's going to turn out to be something important in the chronology or in the whatever. And instead it was just that guy. I don't think he was filmed well. I don't think he looked well. He was just okay. And then I think Anya Taylor-Joy is amazing all the time. And then the last thing that I have to say is that Chris Hemsworth, I love him.
Yeah.
I thought he was
the high Dr.
so
Demento.
fun, so funny, really found good ways to make this weird character work, and also dealt with a lot of the gross, director's thing. He is one of the biggest people that has to deal with that sped up film cut frame nonsense, which I can't stand. And I was just okay with it with him. So I thought he was great.
From an acting performance for me, I mean, obviously Chris Hemsworth makes the movie, and he's the greatest. But I found that I enjoyed two very small roles. One was, and I'm going to mispronounce this last name of George Shevtsov as the history man. I really liked that character. Kind of just, he was like this wise sage in this world of idiocy. Where where the word bullet somehow survived, but the word gun did not, because they're in boomsticks. I don't. Yeah. So, but him as this wise sage, and in a sense, his way of being almost it seemed more like a grandparental figure to Furiosa early on, but that parental kind of father, but make yourself useful and make yourself useful. I found that his way and character and kind of how he survived through his method of being older and weaker, but still being able to survive through all of this. I appreciated that. And the other small one was Angus Sampson, who was the organic mechanic. I just liked his snarky lines here and there about just, because he is discussing kind of human anatomy and people the same way you would discuss a truck, and the same way you discuss a machine. And so they're very small, understated roles. There's, you could argue they're blink and you miss them roles, but at the same time, I felt that they added a lot in their little, what these actors had to work with. I feel that their performances added a lot to the movie.
And some of those actors were really cool to see come back for the history of the film, for the prequel of it, of weird nose whatever guy. And yeah, like a lot of those people we all know are going to die.
Right.
Yes.
But it's kind of exciting to see them be in their power. I don't know. Yeah.
It's something George Miller does really well because, yeah, when you see a character like the organic mechanic come back, there's that recognition. But the other thing in a movie where there is not a lot of dialogue and there's such a strong sense of the world and casting just the right people so that they're recognizable. So you're not confusing like which guy is that or who is that? And to get so much character. So Furiosa's mom, the whole first sort of chunk of the story, there's so much, all it is a girl's picking fruit with her sister. There's some hooligans in the forest. But we get so much a sense of how the world works. The mom and just her expertise and all of how intelligent she is just through actions. And it carries off so much, so well in these stories that I don't need all this exposition at the beginning to explain, who things are, their background. There's no dialogue explaining why people do things. It's just they do it and it fits so well and it makes so much sense and it speaks so much about them that I could easily say, I want to see more about the Green Place and those women and what that world is like. I want to see, more about Dementis. There's such rich characters and part of it is the performances, but the actors don't come through. With Chris Hemsworth, I was like, at first I was like thinking of Ocean's 13, right? Of like the nose. Does it play? Does the nose play? But it did something so that I was not always presented with Chris Hemsworth. He still comes through, but it wasn't a distraction like casting a Tom Cruise, right? Where it's like, oh, it's Tom Cruise. It's like Chris Hemsworth, but it's Dementis, and he allows that to come through so many things. And I thought that works so well in this film so that it's not just the actors and the performance, but that they breathe life into these really unique and memorable characters that may be on screen for just a moment.
Oh my God. I love everything that you just said so much, and that you brought out the nose because the nose is on purpose. So you're not just saying Chris Hemsworth because I think he does really, really weird, like kind of like, I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. This weird walk between comedic but he's not doing with like what Jason Momoa does in the Fast and Furious, which is like, hey, let's go, like walk completely against my weird, how you know me. I thought what he did was so much more subtle and weird and sad and exciting, and I think the nose really played. I'm really happy that you said that, Steve. I'm sorry.
I am so glad that that almost everybody loved this movie, and I cannot wait to hear how many stars Ocean gives it when we talk about Letterboxd. Letterboxd we are on Letterboxd, of course. The True Story FM's family of film podcasts are part of the Next Reels HQ page over on Letterboxd, and it's a great way to track the movies that you see, write your own reviews, and be a part of a larger community of film lovers like yourself. Out of 5 stars, for most people, half stars count. Not me. I'm Pete, no half stars right. And I would like to start with Steven. What are you going to do?
So, upon exiting the theater, this was a solid 4. And then as I sat with it overnight and thought about it and just really replayed in my head and bumped up a half star to 4.5, it may get to 5. And if I were to ask myself, where did that half star fall off? That resides solely with me because I keep 5 stars for those absolute perfection, warm, soft, fuzzy place in my soul. And it's really hard for a film to get that on a first viewing, but what's really right on the steps of that is a companion piece to Fury Road. The only real objection I have to this film is if you were to watch these films in chronological order, by showing highlights of Fury Road during the end credits, you're really spoiling Fury Road if you were to watch Furiosa and then Fury Road.
Yeah.
And so that's the one little complaint I have. I love that as watching Furiosa, having seen Fury Road, because then it's playing out where the threads go. But in 5 years, if somebody said, I want to watch these in chronological order, you'd have to put some type of warning there. But they're really a solid companion piece. Fury Road sits at 5 stars. Furiosa's at 4.5, and a big old heart.
Well, I think you just said something really important, which is I think that montage at the end is George Miller saying, don't watch these in chronological order. The intention is for you just to be reminded of what's going on. Please don't do that, right? That's a mistake. So I'm curious about that. Tommy.
Hi, it's me, Tommy. I've been here the whole time. I guess I would say that this film shouldn't be for me. Cars, don't care for them. Wastelands, not a fan. Gross things like people named scrotums, pass. Either way, past all of those hilarious. Toss-offs, I guess I would say that I'm amazed that after Fury Road, which seemed like the most amount of this is all I got of a filmmaker who is in his 70s, that he would take the time to instead make a very long, yes, but incredibly involved film in his own universe, and take the time to do it, and to even make a situation where you know who's going to win, who's going to live, and who's going to not afterwards. Still gripping. I will give it a 4.8 and a heart. I really got lost in when I was talking.
4.5, 4.5, or 5.
I don't know. Let's say I can't. 4.5.
Okay, 4.5 it is. All right, Ocean, it's your turn.
Yeah. So as I opened with, the movie was, I think that this is a well-made movie. I don't have any quibbles with it and how it was made. I don't have any quibbles with the acting. It's like not a movie that I think is bad. It's not like it's a horrible movie where if you watch it that you're not going to potentially find entertainment. For me, and I recognize this is for me, it just didn't provide much beyond that for me. So I left the movie thinking, oh, well, that was great. I'm never watching this again. So I will give it 3 stars, 0 hearts. Okay.
Oh,
all right.
Wow.
And the fact that he said 0 hearts makes it seem like there was even maybe chances for more heart.
I'm stuck in the no half stars commitment that I made so many moons ago, and so I'm going all the way. I'm going all the way to 5. It's what I did for Fury Road. I think these movies are. I know these movies are of a piece, and I enjoyed my time with this movie that much. I really did, and so but no hearts. Just kidding. Totally a heart. I'm very excited that this movie exists, and I'll tell you, I will be there for the Wasteland. You bet. But before that. We've got some other business to take care of. You know what that business is. What's coming next month? We around these parts celebrate the event we like to call Shyamamania. And so in June, we're taking on the latest Shyamalan, the Night Shyamalan joint. This is The Watchers, but it's not M. Night Shyamalan. No, it's Ishana Night Shyamalan, I believe this is her directorial debut.
Yep.
With The Watchers, the offspring of Night Shyamalan. And so we'll see just how much Shyamamania she is able to put into this Dakota Fanning mystery box in the woods. Very excited about that. So that'll be coming up next month for June. Now, before we have one more significant plug to make, and I'm going to offer that plug to Ocean. Ocean, how excited are you about your new show?
I'm very excited, Pete. My new show that is just recently dropped is called The Adrian Moment, and it is a show with my lifelong friend Jim Pullen, where we talk about the triangulation of sports, movies, and life. We not only discuss the movie, but also the impact of the sport being portrayed in our lives, and also talk about why sports movies work even if you don't like the sport.
Outstanding. And the trailer dropped last week. The first episode dropped on 61, and very excited that show is finally in the world. It is your and Jim's, it's your love language. And I'm excited to hear you talk about more sports movies.
In more ways than one.
Yeah. Well, on that weird note, okay. Tommy, what are you plugging? Are you plugging anything right now?
Hi, everybody. I'm alive. Steve?
We look.
Let's
no,
see,
wait a minute. He did a bad job. We are just about to start releasing our next season of All the Feelings, and it's a doozy. It's the title is actually written in script. The sins and virtues we are covering. Each episode covers one of the 7 deadly sins or one of the heavenly virtues. And oh my goodness, just wait till you get to lust. I'll tell you, it's a doozy.
We've already recorded a few episodes, and it's been going absolutely great and almost too great. And
yeah,
so
especially
maybe...
it's better because no one's heard it yet. And so we're just riding the high of the liminal space. Show's recorded, nobody knows.
Exactly. And I'm saying, like, don't you want to tune in until it all falls apart?
Well, we're very excited about it. And so can't wait to start releasing those episodes very soon. Steve, are you plugging anything right now?
I'm going to do some retro plugging because I'm going to tell people if they saw Furiosa and they're intrigued by this actor playing Praetor Jack, they can actually hear me and JJ talk about a little film that he was in, The Souvenir, on a former an episode of Trailer Rewind. And if you want to hear more of Ocean and myself, we got a couple episodes in there as well. I know we talked about Last Black Man in San Francisco, and I believe, Ocean, you were also on our Loose conversation as well. So if you need some more Steve and Ocean, you can dig into the archives of Trailer Rewind and give some of those old shows some love and find some stuff that's still out there on streaming that you may not have seen before.
Outstanding. Good plugs all around. You boys, you did fantastically. I'm very excited about this stuff. Thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to this show. We sure appreciate your time and attention. Don't forget to do all the stuff you do with podcasts. The show only comes out once a month, so we can really use the additional props that you give the show in, say, Apple Podcasts. Give it a 5-star review. We gave the movie almost 5 stars all around. What do you think about doing the same for this show? We sure appreciate it. Thank you. On behalf of Ocean Murff and Tommy, Metz III, and Steve Sarmento, I'm Pete Wright, and we will see you next month. Meeting adjourned.
If you're lucky.
Here on the Film Board, we have covered quite a variety of great page-to-screen adaptations over the years, from superheroes like Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight Rises, based on stories like Nightfall and The Dark Knight Returns,
to horror and sci-fi like Max Brooks' World War Z and Hiroshi Sakazuraka's All You Need Is Kill, which became one of our favorites, Edge of Tomorrow, with Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt.
And who could forget Andy Weir's stranded astronaut adventure, The Martian, or Dave Eggers' tech thriller, The Circle.
Supposedly so much better than the movie.
We've also explored Stephen King epics like The Dark Tower and It, biopics like Damien Chazelle's First Man,
and sweeping sagas like Denis Villeneuve's take on Frank Herbert's Dune.
And don't forget Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, based on David Grann's nonfiction book about the 1920s murders of the Osage Nation. I just finished the book, and it's fantastic.
It's always fascinating to look at the source material, and we often do as the book lovers we are. For those of you out there who love to do the same, head to thenextreel.com/originals to find all of our past episodes and dive deeper into these adapted stories.
And it's not just stories. We've included things like the video games Uncharted and Detective Pikachu.
That's right. thenextreel.com/originals is your one-stop shop for in-depth looks at the sources for cinematic adaptations that we have discussed. Every purchase you make supports the Film Board and the Next Reel's family of shows.
So what are you waiting for? Head to thenextreel.com/originals and get your next read today.